You know, but when it's like you have to explain and then feel like you're being better than them, it's like you already feel guilt.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes I'll stop myself because I'm like, if I go into this too much, are they going to think that I'm trying to say something to them without saying it? You know, because sometimes people will take it personally.
Oh,
you know
for sure.
I mean? So that's also another thing. But, you know, it's like, you know what? Sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just talk about it because, like, they're looking at me, especially being an expert, being, not expert, like being a professional. You know, they see that it is something that we do.
Right.
So you kind of have to own it. Like, sometimes people are looking at us to tell them what to eat and what to do anyway.
Yo, thanks for locking in. Welcome to the Jyim Life Podcast. This is Jyima.
And this is Sophia. Today we're going to talk about fit shaming.
Adult peer pressure. Y'all know who you are. Don't let the people do the right thing when they just try and do the right thing. Let's vibe out. So we'll start off in the child's pose plank.
Warm up.
So I got to tell you a story. So I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and I'm like, look, I said, I want to get like a really cool topic for the next podcast. And she says, ooh, I got one for you. She's like, fit shaming. I'm like, what?
Dang.
I'm like, she's like, fit shaming. She was like, every time when I was at work, and it's true too, because you know, we have certain members that are like on it all day, every day, right? So she used to have a scale to weigh her food. She would work out during her breaks. She would follow her macros. But she said it got to a point where every time she was just following her routine, people at work would like antagonize her, right? So she'll bring out her scale and they'll be like, what are you weighing your food for? That's weird. And why are you going to work out? You're already skinny. And it's like, that's a person who's not even looking to get skinny. She just wants to be strong and in shape. You know?
And feel good.
Yeah, all those things. So she said it got to a point when she was at work, and we'll go figure force, where she didn't even feel comfortable doing anything to her routine because she knew that they would attack her. And it made me think, like, you know what? There is a part of our culture where fit shaming is just insanely normalized, right? Because it's almost like a overreaction to fat shaming, right? Like it's an overreaction to it. Yes, I get it. Positive body imagery. Nobody should be left out. There's, you know, you don't have to be a supermodel. I get all of that. But at the same time, you don't have to attack the people that they're trying to feel good.
Or overcompensate for that.
You know?
Yeah.
Have you had any experience with that?
Of course. Of course. It's almost like they want me to get, if I'm on a good flow of, like, we're talking about, like, let's talk about food, right? And I'm gonna function or event where I'm trying to be healthy. They're like, oh, you're getting your grass. Actually, it's funny because Chris was also, sometimes he'll be like, oh, the watercress. I'm like,
he said you're getting your grass.
The water. I was like, kale. He was like, oh yeah, the watercress. Like, dang, can I? But not even just that, but like, it's happened so many times, you know, where you just like, but you also like, am like, dang, am I being an asshole? Like, am I being that person? But like, I really just, if they only know what kind of mess I was in last night, like they would understand why right now I'm pulling back. I'm just trying to be, you know, good. But I think when people see, they just like to judge or say what they want to say based on what they're seeing at that moment.
At that moment, yes. And there is a little bit of projecting as well, right?
Yeah, projecting and guilt that they're feeling. So
well, 100%. Combination of both, where it's like, I don't feel good about where I'm at, so I'm going to attack you to make myself feel better.
Not feel as guilty.
and I think anybody can be a victim of fit shaming. It doesn't necessarily have to be the skinny person. It could be that person where you and your friends haven't been in the best shape and you just decide to make a little adjustment or change, and your friends are like, what are you trying to do?
You're already skinny, you're already good. Or like Or like certain, communities or environments, if you grew up certain communities that, don't really prioritize eating healthy, and you're surrounded by people who are overweight and you want to make that change, you're going to feel you're going to feel like you're being the too goody two shoes. Like you feel like you're being bougie,
Right.
So it's like,
I've been accused of all of them.
I'm sure.
I've been accused of all of them. Like, especially when I get around friends
Talk
and family.
about that experience. I want to hear this.
Oh my God. It's to the point now where it's like, it's part of, our dynamic and it's fun.
Yeah.
Where like we'll go out to eat and they'll order like, burger, fries. And I'll be like, can I get mine with no bun? And
with lettuce or
you
no
know what I
bun.
mean? And I can get extra lettuce. Like, your homie's like, oh, come on, son, stop playing. I'm like, no, like, it's just what I want, bro. Like, come on, it's just what I want, please.
I need an episode of this. I can already say, come on, son, like you're not getting no fries.
Come on.
Why did you do this 7 days a week? Like, come on, that's all you do. You do crunches when we're hanging out. Like, what do you?
They're like, come on, man.
Right?
Like, I actually just want it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I actually just want it. And I think sometimes it's hard for them to draw that connection.
Yeah.
That it's something that I actually just enjoy
right, because
doing.
it's like the same day that they want those fries and those burgers, you actually just
Exercise.
want that bun. No, the beef without the bun.
Yes,
With the salad or
just
whatever.
with the lettuce, right?
Just
With
with the
lettuce and
lettuce.
greens, and
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. You
Right.
know what I
and
mean?
you're actually-
Which I think it's important to. We'll get 10 here. 10 arm raise, sit back. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Then out to the side. We'll get 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So first, I want to talk specifically to those people, the
ahead,
bullies,
Jyim.
to the
Come on.
bullies. Let me talk to the
but
bullies
talk
for
to
a
us, Jyim.
second,
This is
okay?
really-
The
this is-
ones who have something to say when somebody just minding their business, eating their food, or going on their workout, right? My my thing to y'all is, what are you gaining by saying anything? Like, what are you gaining, right?
Well-
Think about it. Are you helping the person?
Right.
No, because they're gonna go do it anyways.
Right.
And it's not like they're doing something harmful.
Right.
And this is all assuming that the person's not going to the extreme. Right?
Right.
Assuming the person just wants to make a minor change to their life, right? You have to ask yourself, when you open your mouth to that person, what are you gaining by saying something to them, right?
Right.
It's other than adding stress.
Yeah.
And then I want to predominantly speak to the people who are making the change. You have to learn to block people out, right? And one way I think is important to frame it is, what do you want more? Your health and wellness, or to be liked, right? And if you're forced to make that decision, chances are that's not somebody you want to be around anyways,
Exactly.
right? So if you're around
Exactly.
people that don't want to support you in a change for the better,
Right.
then okay. And this is excluding the fun stuff, the
Yeah.
jokes, right?
Yeah.
Like when your friends and family make fun of you, okay, cool. But those legitimate, like, attack you or try to belittle you for making a healthy choice,
Yeah.
you have to learn to block those people out or cut them off.
Right. Right. Man, I'm seeing so many different
Good.
spaces where that is the case. Like,
Uh-huh.
they're not even talking about like just food or eating out, but when it comes to lifestyle, like, coming from an artist standpoint, like when you go into the music studio, right? Like the culture is what? Weed, you smoke weed, you drink alcohol. A lot of times, if that's the space you're coming from, say you all of a sudden quit, smoking weed, or you take a break. Like, imagine the shame you would be facing, because everybody's like, "Oh, what do you mean you're not? You're not doing that?"
Right,
know what I mean?
right.
There's so much like fit shaming in different spaces and different situations.
Yes. And it also
So how do you combat? How do you deal with that? You said blocking them.
I think blocking them, also kind of understanding that in life and in growth and in wellness, that your circle is very important, right? People who share your values, who share your beliefs, and share, I guess, essentially everything that's important to you. So if you plan on making a shift, right? And we all know it is. Let's say, for example, you have a group of friends that, you know, you guys are always drinking, you're always grabbing bags of Cheetos. And you want to stop doing it because you went to the doctor. And they told you, if you don't stop going, you're in risk for heart attack, you know,
diabetes,
high blood, all those things that come with it. And you decide you want to make that change. You may start changing your circle, right? And I think the reason why is because managing stress is also a part of it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So now if you making a shift towards health and wellness is also causing stress, it's going to be counterproductive towards the healthy mindset. So I think it's important to surround yourself with or start building a new community. And gyms always have those communities, right? Like how many people have started coming here and then start building friendships and relationships through here?
Taking the same classes with the same people, and then eventually they're like going out to do their life, you know, like with, you know, hanging out, having relationships with them, dating, you know, like all of that.
All of that.
It's so important. It's so key because especially when you make it such a huge lifestyle change, your environment is everything.
Everything. It
Yeah.
has to support it.
It has
to support it. And I think it has to be one or the other. It either has to be people who are like, that's not for me, but I'm not going to knock you. Like you could have, you know, I think those people, there's nothing wrong with having those kind of people around. Or it's the people that are like, well, could I go with that too? Right? Could I go, and where are you eating, or where are you grocery shopping? Right? I always laugh with Eva, right? Because she is the queen of finding like unique healthy food, right?
Oh, I could definitely see that.
It's ridiculous.
Definitely see that.
She's like, have you had this freshly organic harvested cacao powder over cashews with sea salt from the mountain? You like, where you find these? And then she bring them in. So now what it is like, okay, now I have a new snack that I like that's healthy, and it can only come from your circle. You know what I mean?
Right. Only from your circle. The amount of relief that like I don't have to like worry so much what I'm gonna say or eat around people that around my circle, my friends, my true friends. Like there's so much peace in that. Like I could just say whatever, talk about whatever I'm eating, do whatever I'm doing, and not be looked at like I'm crazy. It's so important. You know?
It's huge. And I think, and I want to hear more about your circle of friends, because you have such a cool circle. But what I will, and I was joking about my boys earlier, but what I will give them, all of them, because they know that this is my profession and my lifestyle, all of them have made adjustments, which is so dope. Like my ace, one of my closest friends, Blaze, will literally be like, yo, I just heard about sea moss, or I just heard about this. What do you think about this? And I'm like, oh no, that's good, or that's not good, or you know what I mean? And it's a whole discussion. And then now this becomes like a new part of our relationship and our friendship, you know what I mean? Which is cool.
It's so funny. That's hilarious. Quick story. Yesterday, me and Chris were in the music studio. Right? So he's catching up with his friends because he used to manage the music studio downtown. So you know, all his homies are there. Now this is the first time. Some of them first time they're seeing him like before he made that change, or after he made the change. And so he's like promoting my CMOS business. It's like, yo,
now he's on it. Now he's
on it. Now he's telling everybody like, yo, we need to put some CMOS drinks in that fridge right there at the front desk. And they're like, what's that? What is that good for? And so he's like, babe, explain, right? So I explained. And then they're like, one of his homies was like, yo, can you smoke that? Can you like put that in?
That's funny.
I started that. I could not help it. I was like, yo, that is a real question. Like, he actually was dead ass. Like he was like, because somebody else was rolling a blunt, and he was like, "Can you put the CMOS in there?" Like, and me and Chris were like, "Yo."
You're like, no, you can't. But good, just drink the CMOS.
Right.
Just drink
Chris is like, "Well, I guess they gotta. If that's how they want to get it."
It's funny because it's really, and I think you could tell, right? Because I think people who have an affinity or an attraction towards growing, it doesn't matter how the information comes to them. It's going to be, if it's new and they think it could help them, they'll be excited to have it.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And sometimes it takes, the thing that I find like endearing and kind of funny are the people sometimes that like act like they're like that's kind of whack, like that sounds crazy, and then like weeks later they start catching on, right? They're like, yo, do you still sell that CMOS? do you wait, what was that detox thing that you talking about? Or what's that like, wait, what's so bad about this and that again? Like, you know, and you're like, come.
welcome.
Once the student, what is it? Once the student is ready,
open arms.
Open arms.
Come on.
Yeah, never thought you'd ask. But they see it, and they might not be willing to admit it at first, which is why they guilt. It's like that the fit shaming happens, right? But deep down, they're like, dang, that's something I've been meaning to do, intermittent fasting. I've been wanting to do that. I just can't get around it.
Yes, exactly. And it's funny. For me, I grew up in Worcester, Massachusetts, right? And I remember my first time visiting Los Angeles. And I've always, like, even back home when I'm around my friends, they'll know me as one who's always, like, trying to figure out what's the newest thing to eat or being up on the new health fads. Yeah. So when I came to LA, I was like, wait, there's a whole, like, culture around this shit. Like, there's vegan restaurants. Right, you're like, there's all these things out there. You know what I mean? Right. Like, I was completely taken back by it. And then what it does just makes things so much easier and it helps. Right. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you fit right in.
Fit right in. At least this is my people. This is my place. Home. You know? But one thing that I like about out here, and you'll be familiar with this, is you go out to eat with a group of friends, and then they could be like, oh, you getting a drink? You'd be like, no, I'm fasting. Right. Or I'm on a cleanse. Right. And they get it. That makes things so much easier when you don't have to go and explain that whole thing.
Oh, my God. Right. Right. They're like, okay, cool. Like, hey, go for it. And if anything, they're like, wait, can I join you? When are you doing the next one? Like, right. Say less. Yeah. You know, but when it's like you have to explain and then feel like you're being better than them, it's like you already feel guilt. Oh, you know? Yeah. Because sometimes I'll stop myself and I'm like, if I go into this too much, are they going to think that I'm trying to say something to them without saying it? You know, because sometimes people will take it personally.
Oh,
you know
for sure.
So that's also another thing. But I was like, you know what? Sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just talk about it because, like, they're looking at me, especially being an expert, being not expert, like being a professional. You know, they see that it is something that we do. Right. So you kind of have to own it. Like, sometimes people are looking at us to tell them what to eat and what to do anyway.
Oh, of course.
You know?
Of course.
But I think with fit shaming, it's like, I guess the only really way to is like you said, like change the environment around you.
Change your environment. You start making the changes. Who's with you is with you. Who's not is not. It's not saying to like completely cut off friendships, but it may just be kind of like restructuring how often you hang out with these people. Yeah. You know what I wanted to ask you is just like, I know being in different social scenarios, a lot of times I'll have clients come in where it's like, damn, Jim, I want to follow this plan, but I have a birthday coming up. I have a wedding coming up. Yeah. And it's like, you know what you'll hear. What are some of the creative ways you say no to? If I'm in that position? For you, when you're in that position. What are some of like the ways that you say no if like, okay, you're out and you're hanging out with friends?
I've come up with so much. I've come up with so much stuff. But I think because they see me like working out, it hasn't been as hard as before when I was transitioning and trying to make the change. But nowadays, what I would tell people is like,
exercise.
Man, that's kind of hard to answer because right now it's like people are just more aware now. But if I am in a setting where family's probably the best.
Family? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I will say like, there's did you know that this is a new research? Like I'll kind of like drop some factual information. Okay. So when they're saying like, hey, you should have this or you should try this, your response to them, and probably because that fits within you guys' dynamic where they'll respect the new research. Yeah. Right? So there's new research that found,
you shouldn't have this, so that's the reason why I stopped having this.
Right. That's if I'm really comfortable with my family. With my family, I'm comfortable, and I'm trying to put them on. But if it's like people that I just acquaintances, and I don't want to sound like an asshole, and we're like out there eating pizza, I actually am not as strict when it comes to that. Like I'll have a slice, and then I'll be like, I'll get some juice to kind of like. They'll see me just do my thing. But I don't really, to be honest with you, I don't ever feel the need to really explain.
Okay, myself. So you do more, it's like you'll just moderate what you're having.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like if you're going out and you're with family and friends and you see they're all having like something that's not in alignment with what you're doing, it's like you just have your little bit and that's it.
But also, it's made me go from being super extroverted to a lot less extroverted. Because it's like sometimes I'll just know to avoid certain situations. I'll just avoid events. Going to hang out with this and that group and this group and that group. I just avoid it altogether.
Right. And I think that's something, I think that's something to pay attention to. So almost your approach is being a lot more discerning with where you go.
Yes.
Right?
Because sometimes it has less to do with what do you do in that situation as much as like, why even put yourself in that situation? Where you're gonna be tempted, to get into something you weren't planning on getting into.
Yes.
So again, it goes back to your environment. Like why would I put myself in that environment even if it's just for the night, even if it's just for the weekend? Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I know that crowd, they drink a lot. So I'll be like, I got a gig somewhere or like I gotta work, which is
almost
work.
Peeling out early.
Yeah. It's like, I gotta work. So like, next time I'll catch y'all. And I'm not saying like I'll never go. It's just like if I'm feeling like, you know what, I might be not too strong enough to say no. I'm just gonna avoid it.
Right.
Because I know myself. Once I'm there, I'll be like, what diet? Like
what happened? It's funny for me, and I know everybody doesn't have like as an assertive a personality as I do.
Right.
But for those who do and are just looking for the right words, I think the easiest thing to just have a very intentional no. Right? So a lot of times if I'm out there and somebody's like, oh, here, try this. I'm like, no, I'm good. So it's almost in how you say it, right? Like you have to say it very intentional, very purposefully.
Right.
Like, look, I don't want it, right? Because then now when you say like, once the minute you start to sugarcoat it is when I think it becomes more of an issue because then people think there's room or leeway for them to kind of like jump in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's so funny because it like literally just came back to me, and I've done that. We'll be like, I'm good, but I make sure like I'm aware of how I'm saying it. I'm not coming off as like, why would you even ask me? Like
right.
It's just like that. No, I'm good. Like,
just very assertive, very short, very quick.
Versus
no, I'm straight.
Like, oh, thank you. But I'm actually good. Like it's a big difference, right, in the energy and the like the delivery. But it also took me back to like sometimes if I'm out with like certain people and they're like, yo, so like drink shots, I'll be like, shots. I gotta sing tomorrow, so the voice, so like that's my go-to. I'm not trying to sound crazy on that recording tomorrow, the recording session. So and then they'll respect that, but that's been my go-to.
It's almost just saying like I have something that I need to be completely alert for.
Yeah, which I'm not lying. I'm not sugarcoating. I really am looking out for my throat.
Right.
For my vocal health.
I think the work environment, and it's like we have the benefit of working in a gym, but I think the work environment is one of the most challenging places because it's almost like bonding with your employees.
Right.
And I'll be very specific. I have certain clients that work in the entertainment industry. So part of their job is going out and being social and those things. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like it can become challenging because not only is it building relationships, it's also building relationships that could impact your professional career, right? And I think in those times, you have to kind of think ahead is what you can have, right? So almost like being a little bit more proactive as far as where you're going, making sure they have options for you, right? Yeah. When you have options, what are the things that are most in alignment? So it's like if everybody's having a certain drink, you know which drink has the least amount of sugars or
Exactly.
carbs, or if you don't want to drink, you get the mocktails, right?
Yeah.
And this is all assuming that this is your direction. Like,
Right.
if you're not a person who feels like this, then you don't need to do this, right?
Yeah.
But assuming that's the case, because, and I think another thing is, and for me, I'll have ice cream, I'll have pizza, I'll have all those things,
Yeah.
but I decide when I do.
Yeah, so you're
Right.
in control of when.
So I'm in control. So if I went out with let's say a group of friends on a Sunday, and I was like, okay, this is my day, and like Wednesday, I just so happened to have like an impromptu something I
Right.
didn't plan on,
Yeah.
and I didn't plan on having those things. I'm not gonna then break my week and my regimen,
Yeah.
right? Because I already did it on Sunday.
Right, right.
And I say that to say there's always that case of like, oh, it's just once. It's just
Right,
once,
right.
right? Like,
Yeah.
no, it's not always just once. It ends up being more than that.
More
You know
than
what I
that.
mean?
Yeah, you don't stop at one.
Yeah.
You never
Yeah.
stop at one.
You never stop at
Nah.
one.
That's so I love that because you're talking about
Exercise.
Back up.
being intentional
Uh-huh.
and also being like you're almost already visualizing your week.
Yes.
Right? Like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
I know that next weekend I have a wedding to go to. Okay, cool. Monday to Thursday, I gotta chill. I gotta but then when I go there, okay, we're gonna drink, but we're not gonna feel guilty about it. There's
Right.
gonna be pizza, but we're not gonna feel guilty about it. So then you've already visualized yourself enjoying that with the people with the company. So when you're there, okay, cool. And then after that, back to
it. Yes. Visualizing, planning,
Yeah.
being ahead of things.
Yeah, because how many times do we hear about people talk about, dang, I wasn't gonna eat meat this week, or like I wasn't planning to have pizza when we went out, but that was the only thing that was there.
Right,
or like,
right.
I hadn't eaten all day because I knew it was gonna be a lot. No, eat something so when you go there, you're not starving.
That's actually a really good one. I didn't even think of that. So
Yeah.
it's like sometimes if you know you have a social event to go to,
Yeah.
and you don't want to break your regimen, and you know there's gonna be some level of peer pressure, it's easy to say I ate already, and it's true.
Yeah,
like probably
yeah.
eat before you go, because if you
Yeah.
go there starving, then it makes it more
'cause
difficult.
You know what I used to hear a lot of, and I used to do this myself. If I know there's gonna be a lot of food, I'm gonna starve myself that day because I'm like, well, I want to save my money, and also like, oh, okay, if there's gonna be food already, let me just like be on a calorie deficit, right? So that I don't feel guilty about binge eating. But no, like it's actually the opposite. Like, at least for me, like the opposite. It's like, okay, if I know there's gonna be a lot of food, I don't want to feel like shit after eating a lot of food. So I'm gonna eat what I normally eat during the day. Eat my meals. When I
Right.
get there, I'm not like ravenous. I'm not like starving and grabbing everything that I see.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's almost like is that when I had that shift, it was like, oh, this is how I not overeat. This is how I don't end up making the wrong choice.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It's funny because now you're addressing two things, right? Like it's one thing when you go out to eat with friends or family, social events, work, whatever, and then you're getting, let's say, that peer pressure. But in addition to that, you're actually hungry. Like that's even worse,
You're
right?
actually hungry. You starved yourself.
It's like, just give me this.
Yeah.
But now if you've eaten something, especially something that's like, nutrient dense and you feel good,
Yeah.
then you can like legitimately say like, I'm all set, I'm full,
Yeah.
like I already ate. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is planning and just thinking ahead. So that's really good.
Yeah.
So it's like assertive no's, being able to tell people like assertively, this is it. And
Yeah.
then kind of like another approach is just planning ahead.
Planning ahead, which I was gonna add real quick also is part of planning ahead could be eating your salad, your vegetables for breakfast and lunch, so that for dinner you've already covered your nutrient intake. Like you've already covered your salads, you've already done your greens. You know what I
Right.
mean? When you get there, you might actually not even get into eat the worst things. You actually might want to continue that cycle.
Right, because you already started.
Feeling good about yourself. So a lot of times when I do that, I find myself actually like just reinforcing the same, like making those the right decisions. But
Yeah.
if you still do grab that pizza, hey, you already had your salad in the morning or for lunch, so it's not as bad.
I love that.
So it's like little by little doing what you can to set yourself up for success.
Right. I love the idea of putting yourself in that mode from the start of the day, because once you put yourself in that mode, it's almost like you don't want to break the cycle and you're more in that phase, because the worst thing is to face adult peer pressure and then be weak
Right.
at that moment, right? Like shit, because people can smell that, especially
Yeah.
your close friends. They're like, you really want this? Stop.
Yeah, I did stop. Like you've been talking about this all week. Like,
Right,
what do you
right.
mean? What do you mean? But yeah, no, I'm very I feel very blessed to have it is, even though it is a bubble, to have friends that actually have the same priority and I know for a fact wouldn't fit shame. You know what I mean? So, and then you're one of them, obviously.
Right.
Like today, Gabe was like, "Oh, who wants to do a food challenge?" And me and Cole were like, "Who? What food challenge?" And so
Everybody
I hopped
was
on the call
on
with
it.
him. He was like, "Oh, so it's gonna be fruits, veggies, and nuts." And I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." I was like, I might not be able to do that this week, but that's awesome. I'll join you in the next one.
Right, right.
But I'm not gonna look at him and be like he'll always say like some of his coworkers don't understand, so they'll look at him crazy.
Okay.
And I'm like, I know what that means. I know how that feels. So for me, like we're just talking like it's a normal thing. And then you leave your circle, your bubble, and you're like, dang, people do think I'm crazy. That does sound crazy.
It's funny. So he experiences that at work
all the time
himself.
And I've been on production sets, like work with him, where he'll tell people he's fasting for like 24 hours or 48 hours, and they'll be like, Gabe, that's so unhealthy. And that's like one of his pet peeves. He's just like, can you just leave me alone?
Yeah.
I'm fasting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I get it.
And I mean, even to that, like, you have to be a professional to diagnose somebody with an eating disorder, right?
Exactly.
And that's what unhealthy means, right?
Yeah.
Unhealthy doesn't mean that I'm fasting for, let's say, 14 or 16 hours, right?
Yeah.
Unhealthy are true eating disorders. And so many times people are like, well, that's unhealthy. That's unhealthy.
Right.
And it's like, unless that person giving that advice has some certification or expertise in that, they can't tell you what's unhealthy or healthy.
Okay? Like, you need to see a therapist because you sound kind of like you have some body image issues,
Right.
And it's like, no, I actually just like feeling good, and I know my body. I've been in this body for 30 plus years.
Yeah. Well, you know what that reminds me. Well, it makes me think of is that a huge way to combat any misinformation is getting the information. So I would suggest anybody before you embark on a workout or a nutrition program is doing some level of research, right? Whether it's consulting with a holistic health coach or consulting with a nutritionist or a personal trainer, so that when you now embark on this journey, Child's Post playing. Now, when you embark on this journey, you're doing it armed with information and evidence based. So you're not just blindly saying things to people. Like you actually know.
Right. Yeah, I think that's you're big on that, Jyima.
Yes, huge.
You're big on that. I mean, I am too, but it's just like it makes a huge difference because like now they have nothing else to say. What are they gonna say? Unless they're already on that, and they'll just the worst thing is they can say is I heard that too. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. So if you arm yourself with that information, it's just for one, you're making sure that it's in accordance with what you want. But then two, if you ever have to have a discussion about it, you have the information, and it may even entice somebody to want to join in with you.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? Figure 4. Yeah.
If they're in a space where they're ready to make that change, they will for sure be like, oh, you know what? Can I do that with you?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
They'll be like, okay, let me do this as well.
So let's go back to the client that said like she goes to work and has where's she at now? Like how is she dealing with that?
Well, it's funny now she has a new job. Now she has a new job.
See?
But we have discussions to this day, and there's a few adjustments she's made. One is that she's found the people in her office that are making an effort to do the right things, right? So that's one thing that's big. She found someone that's in her office that's doing that. Yeah. Secondly, she's being more assertive in what she wants, right? Which is something that's really big. Like I don't think you can ever do anything without the utmost confidence that it's something for you.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So those are the two adjustments she made. One is she found people in her office, hip flexor stretch. She's found people in her office that kind of align with her values, which goes back to building your circle. And then the second thing is she's become a lot more assertive in her approaches, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if I'm working out, yeah, I'm going to work out. Like stop. Or sometimes just meeting it head on.
Yeah.
And I have to honestly say this. There's gonna be two types of ways that you get this challenge or this adult peer pressure. One, I think there's genuine curiosity.
Right.
And people having fun with them. It's like be patient and be cordial.
Yeah.
But for people who are meeting you like antagonizing or aggressive, it's like just very assertively saying, "Could you please leave me alone?"
Right.
Right? I don't want to
Yeah.
hear that anymore.
Right.
And don't make it a discussion.
Right.
But yeah, so that's where she's at now. It's funny, even one of her coworkers that she's developed a new rapport with, she brought down to the gym with her, which is cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which is really cool. So with your circle of friends, you know what I noticed is not everybody, and this just goes to show, not everybody has the same level of attentiveness to let's say fitness, right?
Right.
Like so you have you, Gabe, Coy,
Yeah.
Rock, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And everybody's at like, let's say different levels or different levels of like attention to it.
Of course.
Right? But you guys all
absolutely.
intermingle so beautifully.
Absolutely. Everybody, I mean, is on their whole journey, but I think we're all in the same boat.
Right.
You know, like we all have our unique paths and we're all pacing ourselves a little differently. But we're all in the same boat. So it's like, all right, cool. And then even the information that I get, I can just like, I'm excited to share it with the rest of the group and then them vice versa. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, cool. We're, because I think ultimately, I think it's for, I know, and I can speak for, I guess I can speak for the group as well. We all have a very, I can say that we're all very spiritual, right? So it's like that level of respect that you have for your body and just like respecting it as like a temple. You know, like it affects so much more of your other areas of your life. That brings into so many areas of your life. So it's not just about the image and the body image and aesthetics and even
which it
feeling
never
good.
should be about,
It's
but they
never
get
feeling,
it.
Yeah, or even feeling good. Like that's still kind of shallow, I guess. But I think ultimately it's like you respect your body, you respect your relationship with yourself. That you want to just make sure you're doing the best you can to stay on this path.
Right.
Your path. You have your own path.
Right. Everybody
you know, and
does.
You've been so like you've been loyal to that path. You know, like no matter regardless who's saying what to you.
Yeah.
You know, you just know to like stick with your path.
Yeah, and it's the best way I could shape it, and I think I said this to you before, it's like you with yourself and your intentions is like a company that's been in business for however many years. Let's say you're 30 years old. You've been in business for 30 years. You've had millions of meetings. You can't let somebody come in who hasn't been to one meeting start making suggestions on how you should run your company. Your internal company, right? That's how you need to look at it. This is your internal company based on a bunch of intel and all these other things. You decided to make a decision. Anybody else coming in doesn't even have the background of the information to give advice to you.
Exactly.
Yeah?
And you could be the expert at that field and you coming into that board meeting, right, with everybody that's been in the company for 30 years.
Right.
Unless they ask for your opinion.
Right.
Like, I would sit first.
Right.
I would
observe.
sit down and observe.
Yeah. Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
100%. Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, that's a good one.
Okay.
And I hopefully, if anything, be assertive in your approach.
Yeah.
Be assertive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Stick to that. Like, keep your eye on the prize. You know, always remind yourself of what your goal was to begin with.
Right.
You know, and then that'll help with like maintaining that, being on that path. Because there's a lot of distractions.
A lot of
you know,
distractions.
But if you say like you trust that person that made that decision in the beginning, right? That commitment to be fit, to do this thing, to do this 40-day health journey. Trust that person that made that decision was basing it off of something that was gonna better you. Yeah, ultimately.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, we back at it, homie.
It was good.